All right, guys, so we're moving on. We're going to work on one-step equations with the properties. So this is kind of bumping you up to the next level. So here's kind of where we're at right now. We have been working on multiplication and division problems, specifically things like this. If I tell you I have 4x and it equals negative 20, solve for x. So hopefully you're like, okay, I think I'm getting these down. I know I put a line down the equal sign. And I know at the very bottom, I'm trying to get x all by itself with an answer. What does x equal? That's the goal. So to do that, the 4 needs to go away. The 4 shouldn't be on the left side. It needs to be over here. And to undo this process, this technically means I have 4 times x. Just we don't put that little dot there usually. But to undo that, we're going to divide it away. But we know in algebra, division looks like a fraction. So we are going to divide by 4 to get rid of this. Now you can't just do that on one side though. You have to do that on both sides. They have to match up. So we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. Now I know 20 divided by 4 is 5. And I know that a negative divided by a positive, those don't match, so that's a negative answer, negative 5. But we have a name for what we just did there. We just divided on both sides of the equation. We divided equally. So the name of that step, we call that the division property of equality. Feel free to pause the video and write that down if you need to. Division property of equality. And what does that mean? Well, we divided, so that's why it's called division. It's a rule, you can do this, so it's called a property in math, that's a rule. And we did it on both sides equally, so of equality. So that means we did it equally. So division rule that we equally did. That's basically what that means. So yeah, division property of equality. Let me show you another problem though, because there are other properties out there that we have been practicing. So we're going to try another example. This time, let's start with a fraction. Let's say we had m over 3 equals negative 8. M over 3 equals negative 8. Again, we're kind of getting the hang of this. We put the line down the equal sign, and at the bottom we want m, which is here, isolated all by itself. So we want to figure out what does m equal. So really the goal is to get rid of the 3. Move the 3 over so it's not with the m anymore. And since we know fractions in algebra mean to divide, to undo that 3, to move it to the other side, we're going to times it by 3. That's how we move it over. Now technically when I'm moving it like that, what I'm actually doing is timesing by 3 on both sides. Multiplying by 3 and dividing by 3 cancel each other out. They're opposites. And then over here I just have to figure out my math. I know 8 times 3 is 24. I also know that a negative times a positive don't match, so that's a negative. So my answer is negative 24. But we have a property for this as well. We just used another rule. We multiplied on both sides. So we're going to call that the multiplication property. So I'm going to write that multiplication property. And we did it to both sides equally. So it's the multiplication property of equality because we did it equally. Now, truthfully, I say this in class a lot, but in real life, no one's going to walk around and probably make you state the property that you are using to solve a problem. Like, nobody says, like, oh, I just used the multiplication property of equality. That sounds a little weird. But it's good to know, it's good to get familiar with. You're going to see it in math books. When you're in higher level math classes, you're going to maybe hear teachers use some of these words. And the more familiar and the more you hear it, I think the easier some things will be just in understanding concepts. So it's good to practice the words, and also if you're able to remember and write it down, I mean, that kind of bumps you up in a level of understanding. That's a way of showing a little more advanced understanding. So just to give you kind of some ideas. Let's try one more for this video. Another example here. So for this example, let's start with something like this. Let's say we had, we'll say 45 equals 5x. 45 equals 5x. Remember the goal is to solve for x, so line down the middle. This time x is on the right hand side, so at the bottom down here I have an x equals, And over here, I'm expecting an answer. So you ask yourself, what do I need to get away from the x? Because x has to be isolated by itself. I think the answer is 5. We need to get rid of that 5. Should go away. So to get rid of the 5, we remember that technically 5x is like 5 times x. They're right together. So to get rid of it, we are going to use division. We're going to divide by 5 on both sides. But division looks like a fraction, so we're going to divide by 5 here. We're going to divide by 5 here. 5 divided by 5 cancels it out, makes it go away. Exactly what we wanted to get x isolated by itself. And then I have to know what 45 divided by 5 is. Well, I know 45 divided by 5 is 9. So my answer is x is equal to 9, or 9 is equal to x. And if I want to take this up one little level, I'm going to name my property. What did I do to both sides? Well, I divided by 5. So that is my division property. Division property, I'm going to write prop of equality. And I've named my step. So again, just to kind of wrap up this video, if you cannot remember the properties, that's really okay for now, but it is nice to kind of start practicing hearing those words. And if you can remember the properties, that's awesome. Include it in your work. And like I said, it kind of shows some advanced understanding. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. There is going to be some more videos on this coming soon.